Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
So it's entertainment, celebrity culture, influencing, nostalgia, all of these things thrown into one big soup that we're going to cook together today, Steve. I think we've, the thing that is interesting, I think, I don't know if you feel this way as well, from just on a more global approach before we go into some specifics, is just this idea that going from an era, say 30 years ago, where you got a lot of original content, or you had bona fide celebrities that were sort of recognized for their talent, and then seeing it morph into what it is today, which is basically cashing in on those experiences that are from yesteryear. And then you've got like celebrity culture sort of, in a way, I think is actually sort of becoming a bit nullified in the face of social media influencing and stuff like that. And it's a change that sort of, I think, morphed over the past decade in particular. Before we get into the specifics, I just wanted to point that out because it's quite bizarre, really. I know that maybe the current generation probably wouldn't know the difference, but I guess we do because we lived in the before times, so to speak.
Well, it only maybe adds a bit more to, the archetypal story that, good filmmaking ended with Star Wars in 1979 and everything, Then we had the sequel franchises. It is weird to see films continually rebooted. And I guess the thing that I'm sort of a bit weirded out about with all of this is that they tend to reboot all of these franchises in the same way. Yeah. They just take the same idea for rebooting them to each different franchise. So there's no new ideas. It's the same characters or friends of the same characters going through exactly the same experience that they went through in the other film. Yeah. In every film.
And well, I mean, to bring it back to Star Wars, Lucas was quoted as saying that the suits, if they had their way, would just make the same movie over and over and over and over again as long as it made money. So there's probably something to it.
It is being proven right.
Absolutely. So in that context, we're going to focus on two specific examples, and I believe they're both the fourth entries in their respective franchises, which is Ghostbusters Afterlife and Matrix Resurrections. Now, to me, both of these films are strange. I think for a lot of the reasons that we were just talking about, which was, if you take a step back, if you think of like the 70s and 80s when these franchises started to become a thing, particularly in the 80s with sequels, etc. But I remember what used to happen is that once the franchise ran out of gas, that was it. It was done. Yeah. And then they would try to find another franchise. And these two movies in particular, and they're not the only ones, there's plenty of them, Disney's remaking its entire back catalogue at the moment as live action, as an example of how cynical some of this stuff is. But you would never see a sequel to a film 20 years after the last one, kind of thing. Matrix, I think the last film was back in 2003, and now we've got one in 2021. So that's like 18 years between them. The new Ghostbusters film, there was a sort of pseudo remake a couple of years ago, but if this one is really more closely tied to the original film, and I think the last sequel to that was back in the late 80s, from what I can remember. The thing that I'll focus on Ghostbusters first. I actually did enjoy it, but I didn't feel good about it at the end of it because I was trying to, compute what I'd actually watched. Because on the one hand, if you know the original film, this one absolutely fits in with that one. Like, it literally feels exactly like from a an experience. It gives you the same that type of feel of what a Ghostbusters film is supposed to be. So that on that level, very successful in doing that. But on the other hand, yes, it's in a different setting. There's some different circumstances that lead to it, but it's the same villain that comes back. It's the same. It's like basically they set up a scenario that this villain comes back every so often. So basically, you've got the same villain at the end and the same ending in effect, even though it's in a different setting. And they bank on the nostalgia of the original actors who do make an appearance at the end to, you know, solve the dilemma. And so,
are you suggesting, Ben, and I'm maybe being cynical here, that, you know, that sort of ending allows you to sell more Zool dolls?
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe you had some back from the 80s that are still in the cupboard that you could that you didn't get to sell the last time that you could punch out there. And that's the thing that so I'm watching it and I thought they did a nice little sort of nostalgic trip by hitting a lot of the same beats, a lot of the same music, a lot of the same sort of investigation and stuff. And the only thing that was, I guess, different was they made it a more generational thing, because it's a the next generation of the family picks it up kind of thing. So I was kind of in two minds about what was going on with it. And whether or not it actually is a good film. And I felt like bad about that because Ghostbusters never really had a good sequel in terms of its franchiseness.
Yes, that's true. And from the sounds of it, probably still doesn't.
Absolutely. The other thing is I was going to mention the Matrix film, which again, strange for a whole host of other reasons, and how meta it was, like not quoting Facebook or anything, but the fact that it went down a very self-referential path. So there's some very strange scenes at the beginning of the film where you know, Thomas Anderson is a game developer and he's made an uber successful game trilogy called The Matrix, and the studio's coming to him telling him that they need to make a sequel and they're going to make it with him or without him. Like, there's a whole scene at the front and you can tell that that's basically what the film franchise discussion was about. Now, I don't know whether that was like making fun of it or, you know, them trying to do the whole self-referential thing. They were replaying and restaging entire sequences from the first film. It probably had more philosophy injected back into it compared to the sequels, but then it's all of the action and the sequences are not shot like the original Matrix film, so it doesn't feel like a Matrix film. It's just bizarre on so many levels, and you want to like it because, like, they got some of the actors back and you know, the original directors back, so there is some sense that it's similar to the other films and stuff, but I just don't know what's going on.
Once again, I've got to be cynical and just ask, do they have a bullet dodging scene or something like that, and they're walking up the walls, that, you know, like a little bit of a throwback to the original?
Well, it's worse. The characters actually refer to bullet time in the dialogue. So,
oh, dear.
So again, very bizarre experience. And I guess just using those two things as an example, I just feel like that this emphasis on nostalgia is just, I just don't think it's a good thing. I mean, I haven't been, you know, a big fan of cinema in the last several years because of the fact that, as you've said, they've kept regurgitating old ideas, and effectively they've gotten to the point now where they don't care and they're just remaking old films over and over again. And I just don't see the point of going if that's what they're going to be doing.
Very true. Very true. I mean, you know, and especially now, look, who knows? I wouldn't read anything into this comment, but maybe there is something in it. But it's just that downward spiral of quality as everything moves online, and we've seen it in everything from the general, you know, use of social media has degenerated, and people's commentaries, opinions, etc., etc. And I think, you know, when it's easy to serve up and it becomes disposable, this is what you end up with. Another quick fix.
Absolutely. I think that's probably a good point to transition into the whole influencer culture / celebrity and what it means today. We won't dwell on this too long, but there's a bit of a story going on in Australia at the moment about Novak Djokovic being denied, having his visa cancelled and sent out. We're recording this at a time where it's still uncertain. I presume at this point that he's going to be sent packing now, but who knows what will happen because it's all been a saga. But how
does he get court cases scheduled for the weekend?
Yeah, well, maybe we can look into that in case we ever get stuck with a court case. But the whole thing kind of highlighted this whole idea of when you've got a celebrity like that, how we become so attached to following the story, how the media pumps it up because he's, oh my God, it's the number one tennis player. We got to follow it. Like we were saying before we got on, it seemed like a nothing story to us other than, everyone on every level just balls it up completely. But it does make me wonder about like where the role of celebrity is. At least Novak is known for doing something. There are other celebrities, I should take a step back. That's what the pre-qualifier to become a celebrity was, to be known for something, a talent or and it had to be a good talent. There might have been instances where you were notoriety, a bit of notoriety was there because, of what you did or whatever. But I think the vast majority back in the day was all about what you could do and be known for it. Whereas that's kind of completely gone down a path now of as long as you're famous to be famous, you'll be fine in terms of having a celebrity profession, if you want to call it that. And then you add in on top the fact that there's this whole influencer culture, and that seems to be coming in, like that's almost like extending it to the nth degree, where now you don't even have to bother becoming a celebrity. You just have to build your audience online, and you're actually influencing like vast swaths of people, and that seems to provide more value than what a celebrity would, which you never would have thought of 20, 30 years ago.
No, look, that's right, isn't it? What being a celebrity has fragmented like everything else in our society. So, I guess you used to be a star of the screen, the stage, of TV, radio, or you were a great writer, and that's how, or great at sport, but, everybody would know who you are because of the limited media channels effectively to promote somebody to fame. Now, I guess being famous is just having a lot of people that listen to what you say, or probably more correctly can't escape your posts and are on their phones all the time. And that effectively creates a celebrity environment there. So these people become very powerful, and we become very interested in what happens to them and invested in what happens to them, even though there might be no good reason for us to actually even care.
I was actually going to say that I think it's actually getting to a point where the influencer culture is becoming stronger and more, I don't want to say relevant, but it seems like it's more relevant to people, to the point that, and I think this was highlighted in the Trump years and the kind of populist uprisings in a lot of Western democracies, that celebrities have kind of been tied to the elite. They always were the elite, but whereas before it was looked up to, now it's, sort of looked down at. You see more examples of people going after celebrities and, their positions on things. And if they get caught, like, people will pile on real quick if they do something stupid or silly, or they say something silly. And I'm not even talking about, things that they have to go away for necessarily. I think we covered this on an episode the other year, it might have been last year or the year before, where those celebrities did that Imagine video on Instagram, and it was like tone deaf as anything, and they got, caned for it. By the public. So I just have to wonder whether, celebrity actually has the cachet. Like, I think it has a business cachet. I think, corporations can make money out of celebrities, but that allure of who they are and becoming them, I don't know if that actually has the same meaning anymore, and it might actually be fading.
Oh, look, I tend to agree with you, but the natural position for this is to merge celebrity with effectively influence. So, and I think probably any agent will tell you today is if you're a star or somebody who is a celebrity, if you're not endorsing something, then you're not doing enough. Right, you're not busy enough, working enough, whatever that might be. And the really interesting thing with that is that you can endorse anything. So it can be climate change, it can be a car, it can be a shirt, or it can be some shampoo. But if you don't endorse it, you're not making enough. You're not influencing. Therefore, influencers have value, because if you listen to me talk about climate change and like my views on climate change, then you'll probably like my choice of shoes.
Indeed.
And that's how it works.
Absolutely. I guess one final point too is that that's not to say that there isn't a push to try and drum up, hysteria whenever something happens to a celebrity or whatever, because it still sells copy for mainstream news. And I think that's been, like with the whole Djokovic thing, I think that's the thing that's been one of the things that's been most dismaying, is that it's almost to the effect that they're almost telling you should be caring and following the story. That's
right. And it really just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there, Steve. Go see Ghostbusters at least. I am curious. Recommend everyone watch it. I actually think it was. I think it's worth the money. But just. Yeah, I'm just curious, but I'm just curious what the after effects will be of what you think.
I'll look forward to seeing it then.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so don't forget our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, our RSS feeds, and watch us on any and all of your devices. And we greatly appreciate your visits to our website. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.